All right, let's pick up back where we left off. We talked about Bunker Hill. And one of the reasons they have Bunker Hill is the Second Continental Congress has decided that they're going to send George Washington to take over all the militias, form an army, but he's not there yet. And so that happens in June, but later on in June, he actually does show up. And at this point, when he gets to Boston, he actually takes all the people and rounds up what kind of gunpowder we have, what kind of shot we have. And what we end up having is only 36 barrels of gunpowder. To give you an idea, that's 9 shots per soldier. I don't want to fight a war to where I've only got 9 bullets to battle with, but that's what George is up against. And if you'll notice when we look at your notes and everything, one of the things that's on the test is at the start of the war, supplies were their greatest weakness. It's not till Big Ben Pimpin goes over there and is actually to be able to get some things sent from France back over here in the next year. And that's when we're able to start. Like I said, 90% of the gunpowder comes from France. Without Ben, we would not have been able to win this war. But Washington is looking at only 36 barrels of gunpowder, and he doesn't know, how am I going to be able to stop them from coming out? Because if the British leave Boston, you're going to come out for one battle, and it's over. It's over. We've lost the war before it even starts. So Washington, genius that he is, he gives them false information and tells them where to go spread it and when to go spread it. Now, remember, at this time, we're up to 9,000 British troops in a city of 20,000. I mean, it's like every other person is a soldier. And so Washington sends some guys in, tells them to go to the Green Dragon Tavern, which is where they all hang out, or go to the bakery shop and hang out and start talking. And these 2 guys that get there and they go, yeah, I know Washington's outside the city. I don't know what he's going to do. He's going to need some wagons because he has 1,800 barrels of gunpowder. And they would make sure that a British soldier overheard that. Then at another place, he's got 2 other guys talking about what is Washington going to do with 1,800 barrels of gunpowder. And they keep using the term 1,800 barrels. He only has 36. What happens then is you're going to have a guy, the soldier from the restaurant shows up and says, hey, I heard they have 1,800 barrels to his boss. Later, another guy is going to show up and say, I heard over at the bakery, they've got 1,800 barrels. Eventually, when you hear the same story over and over and over and over, you begin to believe it's true. And so the British troops believe that he has 1,800 barrels. They don't come out and fight the whole rest of the time that went summer. Now, one thing that's weird for us, we don't think of this today, they don't fight in the winter. It gets to the cold snow and they stop until spring. All right. So they don't come out July, August, September, and then it's getting cold and the British hunker down in Boston. We are able to, by rumors, not get a war going in 1775, but it is now coming up to 1776. And what do we have to do now? We have to somewhere get a bunch of gunpowder. We have to somewhere come up with some shot. One of the things we're going to need more than anything, we're going to need some cannons. That's the tank of its day. There isn't really a good option for this, but Washington knows what to do. He's always thinking ahead of time. If you remember from the French and Indian War, there was a fort called Ticonderoga that's up in New York that the British pulled up. They went up the hill to attack it, and that's where they had piled up all the brush. And they couldn't get all the way up there before they had lost so many thousand people, and they turned around and went back. Because they never took that fort, Fort Ticonderoga is still there. After the French and Indian War, it is now in British hands. So it is up almost to the Canadian border, but not quite. It's on the area of Lake George area because we didn't make it all the way to where we're supposed to be to build these forts. And so it's down in that area, and we're going to send some guys up there to get back and get some shot and some cannonballs and some cannons and stuff so we can fight this war. So Washington sends one of his best soldiers, actually 2 of his best soldiers. He's going to send a man by the name of Henry Knox. Henry Knox is the man we've named Knoxville after. He's that important to us and everything like that. And in fact, the town right below him, Farragut, is named after Admiral Farragut from the War of 1812. History is around you everywhere you look. So Knox is going to go. He also is going to send up Benedict Arnold. You know Benedict Arnold as a traitor. If you've ever heard the name, he does turn his back on us, and we'll talk that away in further on in the war, because it's about 3/4 of the way through the war before he turns his back on us. But right now, he's actually one of our better soldiers. And so Henry Knox and Benedict Arnold start heading up there to go to New York. When they're almost there, they're 30 miles from the fort and everything. They run into a group of about 125 guys in the woods. They've got about 125 guys with them. And all of a sudden, it is a screaming match showdown. These two armies have ran into each other. They are hollering, screaming, ready to shoot at each other. And Benedict Arnold steps in, calms everybody down, finds out what's going on. The people he's talking to are the New Hampshire militia. If you go back to Lexington and Concord, remember we said at Lexington and Concord, the reason we hived the gunpowder there and the cannons that we had is the New Hampshire militia stole it from a fort. This is them. They call themselves the Green Mountain Boys. Wow! You almost have to do that every time because they're straight up as redneck as it gets. I mean, it's the Coker Creek gang. Let's just be honest, except with more teeth. These guys then, they meet up and they're like, hey, we're going to raid Fort Ticonderoga. And the New Hampshire militias are like, well, yeah, we want in on that. Wow! And so they decide they're going to go with them. They go the next 30 miles up to the fort the next day and everything, get there at night. On the way there, the last 30 miles, they've stolen about 4 or 5 rowboats. There's a huge river. You can see in the picture when you do your notes here in a minute, there's a huge river next to the fort. And if you've ever rowed in a river, not on a pond, not in a creek, there is a current. And it will flat move your boat down the current. What they do then is they start about midnight trying to get, there's a total of 238 of them. And they want to get them to the other side so they can attack the fort. They start going across the river, but their boat is going further down, and then they have to come back on that side, unload the guys, try and go across, and then it goes further down, and they got to come back and go. It is taking all night long to go across this thing because of all the extra movement that's going on. And by 4 o'clock in the morning, they only have 83 guys on the other side. They have not got that many people across and over to where the fort's going to be. And at this point, they realize if we don't attack now, there's 2 options. We can scrub the mission and it's done because they're about to see us and we're only 83 of us over here. Or we can go ahead and attack the fort with just the 83 guys. This is what the Coker Creek gang would do. Wow! And so the Green Mountain Boys decide they're doing the exact same thing. We're going to attack it with the 83 we got. So they start sneaking up towards the fort and everything. And there is a patrol going around the outside of the fort. Most of the people in the fort are sound asleep because they're not worried about the French. The 7 Years' War is over. They're not worried about any fighting because it's winter time and everything. And when the patrol is coming around, there's one guy outside. He sees them, fires his gun, single shot rifle, fires his gun, runs back into the fort. He's getting hightailing out of there. At this point, Ethan Allen, the guy in charge, says, what we need to do now, everybody start firing their guns, minimum 3 shots into the air. And so for the next 5 minutes, it is ba-boom, 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 guns going off for 5 minutes straight as people are just firing. What are they firing at? Nothing. They're just shooting straight up into the air. Now, why would you waste ammo and shot like this? He was thinking because they go running into the fort after doing that for a minute, and there is not a single soldier in the defensive position ready to defend the fort. When the soldiers heard, they said, we found out from them, when they heard the shot, they jumped up and began to put on boots, grab guns, get pants on, get ready to go because it's middle of the night. And then they kept hearing ba-boom, 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 all this firing. They thought the French had came back. They thought they were under attack by the French, and they thought there were thousands of French soldiers out there. So what did all of them do? I guess they were acting French because they went and hid, and they were ready to surrender pretty easily. Our guys go into the fort and everything, and they start literally, I kid you not, dragging them out from under beds, taking them out from closets, getting them out from barrels because these guys have hidden to get away from what's going on. We keep finding them, taking them to the basement of the fort and locking them in the jails. We end up rounding up all the soldiers in the fort. Do you know how many people have died in this battle? Zero, because they all hid. That was a genius move by Ethan Allen at that point. Now, the fort commander is quite an interesting story. Have you ever seen that person that can sleep through anything? I mean, I could sleep through a tornado. Some of you can sleep through my class. I'm pretty sure you have, all right? But people could sleep through anything. The fort commander was like that. And what happens, in fact, wake up right now. You, not you, you. Okay, thank you. Didn't know I could see. All right. The fort commander is laying face down, sound asleep on the bed. He did not hear any of the shots going off. Ethan Allen comes in, takes out his sword and starts to come down on the guy as hard as he can, except the blade is not going like this. The blade is going like this, sideways across his bottom. Dude gets smacked with a sword as hard as he can, big metal right across the bottom, jumps up, whoa, screaming at the top of his lungs, sees them standing there and goes, whose authority? Whose authority are you doing this under? Wanting to know, are you French? Are you Spanish? What's going on? We're not a country yet. You can't say America. We're not a country. He says, whose authority are you doing this under? And I love this answer. He says, Jehovah and the Second Continental Congress. Translation, Jehovah is another word for Jesus. Second Continental Congress, that's with John Adams. So what does he say? Jesus and John Adams, baby. I think that should be a shirt right there. Jesus and John Adams. That sums me up right there. But, I mean, smacks the guy in the hind end. Whose authority? Jesus and John Adams. And then throws the dude in the jail. At this point, remember I said these are some hard partying, hard working rednecks, the Coker Creek gang type thing? Y'all, when they take the fort, Benedict Arnold and Ethan Allen are both like, all right, let's get this stuff. Let's get out of here. And then the Green Mountain Boys immediately go to the liquor cabinet. And they begin to try and pry open the liquor cabinet and get they're ready to liberate the alcohol is what they're there for. They actually said Benedict Arnold went down there and tried to stop them. Listen, we're not here to steal this. We're here to steal the gunpowder. And they said at that, the Green Mountain Boys went and pointed their guns at him. Really? You going to stand in the way of this? And he moved out the way. And then for the next 3 days, the Green Mountain Boys, are on a 3-day drunk. How much alcohol did they drink? All of it. They literally tore that liquor cabinet up and down and drank everything that was in that fort for them. They said that Benedict Arnold was like a mom at a fraternity party because he was running around for 3 days. Don't break that. Oh, my word, you broke that. Don't stick the dog in the outhouse. Oh, my word, what are you going to do with that dog? I mean, nonstop watching these boys party, have a good time, trying to clean up after them. Benedict Arnold, why do we know all this? Benedict Arnold actually keeps a running piece of paper that lists the things they stole and broke. And most of it is alcohol. It is just a page of alcohol, 2 cases of that, 5 bottles of this, of stuff they stole. And then when they leave, Benedict Arnold actually leaves it where the liquor area was with an IOU Benedict Arnold. He felt bad for all the stealing they were doing at that time. So you got the Green Mountain Boys, that have done this and everything. At this point, just like any good redneck, they can party hard, but they can work hard too. There's about 2.5 foot of snow outside. These guys break down the cannons and everything, turn the wheels sideways so they're flat, pile stuff on top of it, strap ropes to themselves, and turn those into sleds. And they're going to pull 400 pounds each because they're going to end up taking 2,300 pounds a shot, hundreds of barrels of gunpowder, and 59 cannons. Each of these guys is going to pile up a sled behind him and then in 2.5 foot of snow, walk from New York line down to Boston. It's going to take them a couple months of every day, knee-deep snow, pushing through, trying to get these are some hard-working boys. Hard-working. I can't even imagine what they were going through. They do end up getting all the cannons there. At this point, it is now March 4th. And when they get there, Washington he is so many times genius considering he's always outmatched and outnumbered. What he does is he has them reassemble the cannons, and then he tells them take 2 cannons and go to the other side of Boston. And when it starts to get about 6 o'clock, almost dusk, roll them to the top of the hill, fire each 1 shot into the city. So about 6 o'clock that night, the British Redcoats hear, boom, boom, and 2 big old cannonballs come flying into the city and come smacking down. And the British, I'm sure, looked out and were like, oh my goodness, these sons of liberty, they never stop. Seeing 2 cannons out there, but they've got 9,000 soldiers and boatloads of cannons. So they have somebody spend the rest of the night watching those 2 cannons, make sure they don't do anything. And now that we have you looking over here, we're going to do something on this side now. On the other side of Boston, while they're watching that side, he takes 57 cannons, the ones they got, and puts them in rows on top of the hills facing the boats in Boston. And so what happens then is the next morning, General Howe comes out. He's like, we got 2 cannons up there. We can take it. And he turns around. He's like, we got 57 cannons pointed at the boats. Now, if you want to get into a cannon fight between a boat and a cannon, your boat has to hit my cannon dead on to destroy it. I just have to hit the boat. That's a good sized target right there. You will not win this battle. They will destroy those boats if you want to go shot for shot, cannon versus boat. Because, I mean, and the British realize this. What does General Howe do? He gets on the boat. 9,000 of British soldiers start piling onto every boat they can. The rest of people realize that are loyalists, realize you're about to unleash Sam and the boys. And Sam and the boys have been behaved for 2 years because they can't do much. It's about to change. And I think these loyalists realize you're going to be walking around looking like a big chicken, tarred and feathered if you stay in this city. 1,100 loyalists, all the loyalists that are left, go get on the boats with the soldiers and leave. Now Boston is back to being Sam and the boys and the Green Mountain Boys. Wow. I would love to see when those two groups met for the first time. That would be the biggest redneck reunion you've ever seen, these two groups getting together. And so now Boston has been liberated. It has been 2 years, basically, of these intolerable acts just hammering down. And now they're finally free. That was the first step of the war, to free and liberate Boston. Now it's time to work towards our independence. And we will pick up there in the next lesson.